My name is Lena Carter. I'm 35 years old, and I spent nearly a year of my life fighting to prove that I didn't commit a crime that destroyed my reputation, my career, and nearly my freedom. What makes this story so painful isn't the accusation itself. It's who it came from. My younger brother. The same brother I raised like a son. The same brother I protected through every bad decision he ever made. He framed me, knowingly, to save himself. And I didn't see it coming. Not at all. We grew up in Virginia. I was 9 when Luke was born. Our parents divorced when I was 12, and our dad left the picture not long after. That left our mom, a waitress who worked 2 jobs, and me, the built-in babysitter, homework helper, and emotional buffer for Luke. I didn't mind. I loved that boy. I carried him on my back when his legs were tired. I taught him to read. I bought him his first pair of real sneakers with my summer job money. And when Mom died of a stroke when I was 24 and Luke was only 15, I became his legal guardian. I raised him through high school, paid for his books, helped him apply for trade school. He was smart when he wanted to be, but mostly he wanted shortcuts. Fast money, easy wins. That was always Luke's way. Still, I believed in him. I believed he'd grow out of it. He didn't. By the time he was 22, Luke was dabbling in some shady things, selling stolen electronics, doing freelance repairs that were mostly scams, and hanging around some sketchy people. I kept bailing him out, emotionally and financially. He'd always promise, "This is the last time, Lena. I'm going to get my life together." And I wanted to believe that. I needed to. Because I'd sacrificed so much for him. I put off my dream of grad school to raise him. I worked overtime shifts as a nurse just to keep us afloat. So I clung to this idea that one day, it would all be worth it. That's why what happened next felt like betrayal on a biblical level. It started with a call from the hospital I worked at. They'd flagged my employee ID being used on a night I wasn't even on shift. Someone had accessed controlled substances, morphine and fentanyl, using my login. Then, those drugs went missing. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Maybe a tech glitch or someone else on staff borrowing my badge. It wasn't unheard of. But then the internal investigation started. And suddenly, it was my name on every suspicious access log. My ID, my fingerprint, my locker. Even worse, someone had placed a small vial of fentanyl in the back of my home medicine cabinet. I found it myself the next day, tucked behind a bottle of Tylenol. That's when I knew. Someone had planted it, and it had to be someone who'd been in my home. And only one person outside of work had full access to my house. Luke. I didn't want to believe it. I confronted him gently at first. "Did you need anything from my work stuff, like painkillers or anything?" He looked at me dead in the eye and said, "What are you talking about?" But there was a flicker of panic in his face. Barely noticeable. But I saw it. A week later, I was suspended from my job. 2 weeks after that, I was arrested. They said I had stolen narcotics, that I had violated patient trust, that I might be selling or abusing the drugs myself. I was booked, fingerprinted, and released on bail. I lost my nursing license. My name was in the local news. Nurse accused of drug theft. I had spent 12 years building my career. It was over in 2 weeks. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I cried so hard one night, I thought I was having a heart attack. But worse than the humiliation was the silence from Luke. He didn't ask how I was doing. He didn't show up. He didn't even send a text. So I did something I'd never done before. I checked his room while he was gone, and what I found shattered what was left of my soul. In his closet was a small locked safe. Nothing fancy. I knew the brand. I'd bought it for him 2 Christmases ago. And I also knew he'd never bothered to change the default code. 0000. Inside was a stash of cash. Thousands. Rubber banded in bundles. Alongside it were prescription labels torn from real vials, all matching drugs that had gone missing from the hospital. And worst of all, was a printed page with a screenshot of my employee badge log. He'd been monitoring my ID history. Studying it, Luke had framed me, deliberately, carefully, over weeks. I sat on his bed and cried like a child. I took pictures of everything. Every label, every dollar stack, every detail. Then I waited for him to come home. When he walked in, he saw me holding the evidence. His face went pale. He tried to lie. Said, "It's not what it looks like." Said he was holding the stuff for a friend. Said he didn't know it was real. But I wasn't a fool anymore. I told him I was giving him 24 hours to come clean, to go to the police, to tell the truth and clear my name. I didn't want him to go to prison. I just wanted my life back. He looked at me for a long moment. And then he ran. He packed a bag and fled the house that night. And just like that, the boy I raised like a son became a fugitive. It took 2 months for the police to find him, hiding in a motel 3 states away. He was arrested with more stolen prescriptions in his bag. This time, there was no doubt. But by then, the damage to my reputation was done. The DA dropped my charges, officially. But my job didn't come back. My license was still suspended pending review. Friends and coworkers who once respected me now looked at me with suspicion. Some still believed I was involved somehow. Luke pled guilty. He made a deal to avoid a long sentence. His lawyer argued that he had addiction issues, mental health struggles, and that he acted out of desperation. He got 3 years. I didn't go to the sentencing hearing. I couldn't. I was too broken. But a month later, I got a letter. It was from Luke. Handwritten, 5 pages long. He told me he was sorry, that he hated himself for what he did, that he knew I'd never forgive him, that he knew he didn't deserve forgiveness, but that he wanted me to know I was the only real parent he ever had, and that he'd thrown it all away. I didn't respond, not right away. Instead, I spent the next year rebuilding my life, slowly, quietly. I went to therapy. I volunteered at a free clinic. I worked at a bookstore part-time just to keep my mind busy. And after months of fighting, I finally got my nursing license reinstated. I didn't go back to the same hospital. I moved across the state and started fresh. Luke is still in prison. He writes every few months. I read the letters, but I haven't written back. Not yet. Maybe one day I will. Maybe one day I'll find it in my heart to visit him. But for now, I'm focusing on healing, on remembering who I was before my brother nearly destroyed me, and on building a life that's mine again. One where my name isn't tied to betrayal, but to survival. If you're still listening, thank you. And if you've ever been accused of something you didn't do, especially by someone you loved, please know you're not alone. You're not crazy. And you will get your life back, even if it takes longer than you ever thought.